All right, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. We are currently on page 394 and 395. We are in topic 8, lesson 2, climate change. So the first thing I'm going to talk about here is how a greenhouse works, because if you don't understand how a greenhouse works, talking about greenhouse gases or the greenhouse effect is kind of meaningless. So here we have a picture of a greenhouse. Now, the way a greenhouse works is this. We have sunlight, we have light energy. Right, coming from the sun and entering through the glass of the greenhouse. Okay, light energy can easily pass through the glass. Now, what happens when the sun shines on something for an extended period of time? It warms up. Okay, so it's inside, so all the sunlight is shining inside of this greenhouse, warming the interior of the greenhouse, which is good for the plants. They don't want to be too cold or they'll die. Now, as the inside of the greenhouse starts to warm up, that heat is going to want to escape to what's probably the more cooler outside atmosphere. Okay, so the outside environment of the greenhouse is cooler. The heat's going to want to escape there. So as the heat is trying to escape out through the glass blocks it and bounces the heat back inside. So, while light energy can freely pass right through this glass, that light energy, when converted into heat energy or thermal energy, is not going to be able to get through the glass the other way. So essentially, the heat gets trapped inside, all right, creating a warmer environment. And that's what they mean by the greenhouse effect. All right, the gases are being trapped, the heat is being kept in, and whatever is underneath the area in which is trapping the heat, right? For this, in this case, the glass. If we were talking about the Earth, that would be our atmosphere. That is trapping the heat, right, underneath it. All right, so the atmosphere is trapping the heat underneath it, close to the Earth. The glass is trapping the heat within the greenhouse. Okay, so when we talk about the greenhouse effect, we're talking about the warming of the Earth due to our atmosphere keeping the heat in. So it lets the light in, but traps the heat. All right, so gases in the atmosphere that are going to trap this heat. All right, these are known as greenhouse gases. Okay, right here. So we have such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. All right, these absorb a lot of the heat trying to leave the Earth's surface. So if we increase the amount of these gases in the atmosphere, we should see an increase in the overall temperature of the planet. All right, so that's a direct relationship. As one goes up, so as greenhouse gases go up, we are also going to see heat go up, or temperature. Okay, as greenhouse gases go down, temperature should also go down. Now, as we're talking about the changing in Earth's temperature, so if we raise the amount of greenhouse gases, we raise the temperature of the Earth. The raising of the overall temperature of the planet should also create climate changes. All right, so certain areas might be warmer than they used to be. That could be an environment on the land, that can be the environment under the ocean. Okay, so these will change, these climates may change when overall temperature increases or decreases. So if we look here, okay, look right here, all right, so we can actually see this change. We can see evidence of these changes, all right, in climate in the rings of a tree. So if you were to take a tree, and I'm just going to draw a really bad tree, hey, and we cut it down. All right, so we cut it here, and now we're looking, right, down at the top of the tree. We're looking at that cut. You can see the little rings, okay, that form. These are growth rings. So as a tree gets bigger and bigger and widens out, okay, every time it gets wider, it's going to create a new ring. All right, so this shows how the tree has grown. Now we can look at certain rings like right here are very wide, and certain rings like this one right here, right, are very thin. Okay, that tells us something about the climate during that time. So during a time where we have right here a wider band, that's indicative of a rainy season. Okay, so we might have something, we have a lot more water available during that time. So maybe a warmer, wetter environment, right? Which is really good for any type of plant growing, right? You're going to want warmer weather and you're going to want wetter weather, wetter weather, right? You're going to want the soil nice and wet so the roots can suck up the water and help the plant grow. Okay. Now, if we look here at a dry season, okay, the rings are closer together. So we didn't experience as much growth in the tree, right? Not as much widening, due to, you can see with those narrow bands, because we had less resources available. Okay, maybe it was colder, so maybe the tree didn't have a lot of time. Um, for instance, with a lot of extra sunlight, because usually when it's colder, it's cloudier, just like our winters. And because it was a dry season, there was less water, right? Less water available. That puts more stress on the tree. All right, everybody. So I am now on page 398. So if I look over here at the global temperature variation, now global temperature has gone up and down over the lifespan of this planet. Okay, so if we go back 450,000 years ago, all right, so or between 450 and 400,000 years ago, we were at a temperature roughly around where we are today. Okay, and then if we look, we also had, so if we look here and here, pretty close. Um, we also saw these huge dips afterwards dropping down, right? These circles right here would indicate areas in which we would be considered in an ice age. Okay, so the theory behind that is that the ice was not melting quick enough to stop reflection of light back into outer space. Right, so the light's coming through the atmosphere, it's getting to the Earth. There's so much ice still left that it's bouncing back off the ice, being reflected back into space, and not warming the Earth as it should. So the more ice we have, the more colder it tended to be, and that just has this cascading effect. Now then over time, we do see this dramatic rise back of the temperature, slow decrease down, ice age, dramatic rise again, slow decrease down, ice age, dramatic rise, so on and so forth, till we get closer to present day. Ice age again, so over time went down, boom, and then we see that dramatic rise again. So some people say, well, this always happens. We always have this dramatic rise over periods of time. This is normal. Why are we worrying about greenhouse gases and everything else? What this diagram doesn't do a great job at showing you, because it's so small, is that if you look at these peaks here, they seem to have gotten to a point and dramatically dropped. Here we get to a point, we drop a little bit, but then we're going back up again. So we're having a longer time period up at these higher temperatures as opposed to what's happened in the past. So we can start to theorize that maybe we are doing something to alter this natural pattern, this natural temperature rise and decrease globally. Maybe it's some of the actions that we are doing. And if we know anything about the environment, it's that little changes in the environment can have drastic consequences. Um, Remove one species from an area and it can completely disrupt the food chain and everything in that area can end up dying. Um, just like when we're talking about temperature. I mean, if we have the industrial age and we start making all these factories and producing all these goods and we're burning coal for energy and we're burning gasoline for energy and natural gas for energy, that's all releasing greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor up into the atmosphere, which could be leading to sustained temperature increase. Okay, so little changes, little things we do can have drastic results. So the other side of the argument, one side saying, well, this is natural, it always happens, why are we worrying about it? And the other side saying, well, there are steps that we can do. If it's lasting longer than it should, it might be our fault. And there are little steps and little things we can do to lower greenhouse gases in order to prevent this increase from continuing to go up or sustaining longer than it should. Okay, so now on page 400 and 401, we're looking at different activities, right? Human activities that could have led to increasing global temperature. Okay, one of the main ones we're looking at here is the burning of fossil fuels. Now, fossil fuels are anything that are made from, are any energy resources that are made from, you guessed it, fossils, fossilized organic matter that's been under the earth for long periods of time. That can be, for instance, something solid like coal, which is mainly fossilized plant material. We can look at the drilling for oil. All right, oil is organic matter that's been under the crust with lots of heat and pressure for an extended period of time. Since it's organic and it contains carbon, it burns. And then we could be looking at a gaseous form, like for instance, natural gas. That's what comes out of your ovens or your stoves or your hot water tanks. Anytime go to light a flame, you turn the knob and you're like, tick, 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 and then the flame turns on. That's going to be a form of natural gas. Okay, all of which are burnable, and by burning them, you're able to use them for mechanical means. When you burn gasoline in the engine of your car, as the gasoline is injected into the engine, okay, the spark plug ignites it, it causes a mini explosion, and the pistons get pushed up and down inside the engine. Well, as these move up and down, they move other levers and other gears, which then in turn will spin the wheels. Okay, so it's converting a type of chemical energy into a type of mechanical energy. Okay, so let's take a look at a few of these examples they have here. All right, so if we look here, I just drew all over that. There we go. All right, so if we're looking at the burning of fossil fuels, okay, so we can be burning fossil fuels in factories, right? So you notice all of that carbon dioxide and water vapor that's rising up into the atmosphere. We can be burning fossil fuels, right, in industrial type vehicles, cars, trucks. All that exhaust comes out, right? CO2, carbon dioxide, okay, and lots of water vapor as well. Water vapor is also a greenhouse gas. Deforestation, right, is the next example they have here. I'm kind of just going clockwise. Deforestation, right? So we're cutting down massive amounts of trees in, for instance, the Amazon, all right, lots of rainforests, in order to make room for farming. By cutting down all those trees, right, trees take in carbon dioxide and they use it for their photosynthesis, right? So here comes my lovely little tree friend again. I'll make him green this time. Here's a tree. Okay, so we have all this CO2 in the atmosphere. Now the trees are going to suck up that CO2 and use it for their photosynthesis, right? They take the CO2, they take the water, they take the sunlight, and they convert all those things into glucose, the sugar that they need to live. Okay, and then that sugar is used to make energy in their mitochondria called ATP. Now, in order to make ATP, they also need oxygen. So in this photosynthesis process, some of that oxygen is being used, but not all of it. Most of that oxygen, a lot of it, is getting pumped back out into the environment, right? And we breathe oxygen, okay? Carbon dioxide is also a greenhouse gas. Oxygen is not. So if we look here, by cutting down all these trees, we're kind of cutting down the filters, the CO2 filters that we have built into this planet. So these trees are filtering out the CO2 and pumping out oxygen instead, which we all need to breathe. So the less trees we have, less carbon dioxide. I'm sorry, the less trees we have, the more carbon dioxide we'll have in the atmosphere, because if we cut that down, this process stops and the carbon dioxide stays. So now we have more carbon dioxide and we have even less oxygen. You can see there. So up, down, which is not good. All right, last but not least is agriculture. All right, so agriculture, farming, livestock produce greenhouse gases. All right, you need to run the machines in order to harvest the crops. That's going to burn fossil fuels. That's going to release carbon dioxide. And then also you have the livestock. Right, livestock produce nitrous oxide and methane. All right, so if we're talking about cows, that would come from cow farts. They're big organisms. They eat. They're going to produce gas. That gas is going to get released into the environment. We have so much livestock that all that livestock are going to produce gas. That gas is going to go into the environment. It's just the way it is. Okay, so going back to our concentrations of carbon dioxide. All right, so if we're looking at this, we're on the last page, page 402. Okay. The directions here said draw a line across the graph at 300 parts per million. So that's this line right here. So if you notice, 300 parts per million, as we went back 400,000 years ago, the amount of carbon dioxide has gone up and gone down, kind of just like the temperature has gone up and gone down over time. I would actually have to compare these side by side, but it kind of looks like it's the same trend. Carbon dioxide increasing and then going down, going up, going down. Kind of like an increase in carbon dioxide is causing an increase in global temperature. And then as carbon dioxide goes down, so does temperature. Carbon dioxide goes up, so does temperature. Carbon dioxide goes down, so does temperature. Okay? And it never, I mean, right here, it never reaches beyond this point, about 300 parts per million. So that's 300 parts of CO2, okay, per million parts. Okay, doesn't sound like a lot, but it can have dramatic effects. Okay, so if we're looking here, 300 parts per million, boom, we reached that. All right, not too long ago. Well, probably about. It's kind of hard to tell. Okay, right here. I'm sorry. So 1950. Here's where we were at 1950. The year 1950. We were above 300 parts per million. Okay, um, and in 2017, right? So we're talking a few years ago, we were up to 400 parts per million, which, according to our data, for 400,000 years back, has never happened. So maybe the reason why our data in that first graph didn't seem to be dropping as fast is because the amount of carbon dioxide is still increasing. And that's causing the temperature to stay where it is instead of gradually starting to go back down like it should. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, you have the lesson check on the next page. So if you could please, after watching this video and going through the chapter, if you could complete those questions in a Word document, and then submit them to me in the comments below this video, and then I'll mark you off and you'll get credit for it. Okay? Now remember, this is just increasing your grade. Okay? The more work you do, the higher your grade is going to go. All right? So do your best. All right, if you need help, let me know. I've left everybody my number to contact me. You can also reach me on Schoology. Please reach out if you need help. Okay, that's what I'm here for. Monday through Friday, I'm in my lovely basement, right, for 2 hours every single day, going through, grading, making these videos, answering your questions. So please, don't hesitate.